Hello, everyone. I'm George Martinez, candidate for mayor of the great city of Anchorage, and welcome to Tell George Live, the Connections Town Hall, an online forum where during this time of social and physical distancing, we're able to stay connected and share vital and important information, and also fun information. So I want to thank you for tuning in and joining us today, wherever you are, wherever you are quarantining or isolating yourself, and doing your part to help us get through this time. I stopped the music. As you all know, I like to begin each one of these broadcasts with a moment of silence and a land acknowledgement. And today's moment of silence for me is also particularly hard. Over the last month, I would say I've lost probably close to a dozen people that I know or am aware of that have lost their lives. And I know many other people who are sick or who are dealing with one ailment or another. And just this morning, unrelated to COVID, but the timing is essentially during the same window of substantial death that my father-in-law, my wife's father, died this morning as well. And he lived a full life, but he was sick for some time. So on behalf of him, Eusebio Guerrero, Chevel for short, and on behalf of all of the other people who are currently dealing with a loss of a loved one to COVID during this time, and or who are fighting for their lives, just want to give a moment of silence. And I also want to now thank you for the moment of silence. I also want to acknowledge that I am broadcasting and communicating from ancestral, traditional Dena'ina Athabascan land, and want to give a land acknowledgement to that stewardship that once was and remains today from our indigenous brothers and sisters. And wherever you are in Anchorage, also remember that you are on traditional Dena'ina Athabascan land, and give some reflection to that, as well as if you are in other parts of Alaska or wherever else you are in the world. Think about the people and the indigenous folks on the land in which you may be on today, and give some thought and some reflection to them as well. So thank you. I'm really excited to come to, in the midst of all of what's going on. I'm grateful to be able to have the opportunity to have the resources, to be able to use them to help people to stay connected. In the last week or so, I've been able to connect various people in the community who are in different networks with each other, and that's one of the things that that I have done in Anchorage, and that I'm known for, is essentially helping to get stuff done. And I want to salute all the people who are out there who are helping to get stuff done during this time and all other times when essentially it is the community that we rely on. So if you're a getting stuff done person, I thank you for the work you're doing out in the community. I also want to give an update that the Alaska Mask Makers group that we had on 2, I think, weeks ago, were able to get connected to a group of home health and assistance living providers that I was helping to work with. And we're able to now connect some PPE and other masks to that community and some particular needs that are out there. So once again, for all the people who are in the community who are helping to get things done, thank you for what you're doing this coming week. My wife and I will also be leaning into some other work, and we'll report back on that as it goes out in the community. But there's a lot of need, a lot of ways to get involved. I sent out a letter this week, but I encourage people to look at 211 or to look online at other social media or other groups where you may be able to find out how to get involved and how to donate your time and or your talent. And today I'm excited that we're going to talk about this, the reopening and the rebooting of the Anchorage economy. For 4 years, I've worked in the executive branch here, and one of my tasks was focused on economic development for the municipality of Anchorage. And a lot of the work that I focused on was primarily around workforce development, and then also economic development with respect to advancing industries and a formula for pivoting Anchorage into an economy of tomorrow. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I got a really great guest that's a commercial loan officer today that will be able to look into the actual window of what's happening with small businesses with respect to the CARES Act loans and some of the other issues as we talk about the rebuilding and the rebounding that we have to come. So, but before we get there, I want to introduce my son in the background, my companion this evening, in little Ever, George Martinez. And we're going to just do a quick musical interlude. And he plays the piano. And let me get out of his way. George, he's going to play an original tune. And so for all of the people at home with your families, this is for you. Homeschooling families, we all now are homeschooling families. And take the opportunity to let's get our kids some shine. So, Ever? Awesome, man. Awesome, son. Thank you. Pretty awesome. Hearing my son play piano, or hearing all of our children play piano, for that matter, always brings a warm emotion to my heart. As a young person, when I grew up, played music and really appreciated the arts in school and the importance of creativity in my life and in the lives of our young people. So if you're home and in your homeschooling, like we all are now, I just encourage you to give your kids an opportunity to lean into some of the music that they have an opportunity to maybe be interested in, and now with technology, it's a real great opportunity to have them also share their talent with their family members in all parts of the world. So thank you, son, and we'll get into our conversation now. I'll see you in a little bit. He'll come back later on for another music interlude. And I do have one thing that I would ask my son to help us demonstrate. When you came onto the program today, we had this move here, which is essentially the protect others, cover your cough and sneeze, do the dab. And so I'm going to have my son demonstrate just what it should look like if you're doing a dab. And so let's take a look at this. Go ahead, son. Now that's pristine form. Let's do it one more time so that folks at home can see exactly what doing the dab looks like when you sneeze. So this way everybody could be cool and also make sure we're protecting each other. Go ahead. Let me hear that again. Excellent. Thank you for using the right hand. Make sure if that was a real sneeze. Now remember, you do have potential germs in your the corner of your arm there. So as I'm waiting for the next guest to kind of queue up, I wanted to talk a little bit about this nature of what we're going to talk about today. This reset, rebuild, and rebound, essentially, of our Anchorage economy. And a lot of people nationally are talking about the reopening and when to reopen economy. And I think that when we think of it as a light switch, it gets a little confusing. And so breaking it down a little more into a more methodical way, I think, is a little more appropriate. And one of the ways that some of the ways, rather, that thinking about breaking it down is essentially when we have a few measures in place that we can all have confidence in. And I, for one, would love to see a local dashboard on the local public resources, local government resources, the municipal website that has some of these indicators in real time. So I don't always have to wait necessarily for a narrative from a press conference. But I'd like to see, for example, the reduction in case numbers, widespread and available testing. Obviously, a lot of these have to do with the state, but this for local economy, we should be tracking and monitoring. Healthcare system capacity. By all measures, we're doing good on several of these indicators, but I'd like to see them in real time. Contact tracing is another important component to make sure we have in place when we start to unravel the restrictions, rather. But let me also add this other component that when people talk about, I think we in Alaska, and especially in Anchorage, have a unique disposition on, which is a culture of personal and business responsibility, that we do think about each other, that there is a culture that when it hits the fan, when someone's in the ditch, that we lean in. It doesn't matter what political party they may be affiliated with, and we just ask, do they need help? And when we see they need help, we just lean in on that help. And I've referred to some of the wonderful generosity that I and my family have been able to experience in Anchorage and in Alaska. So I think this culture of personal responsibility is something that we should take into account when we talk about the small business relationships to how we start to do the new normal and what the new normal looks like when we open, because we will start to open back the economic activity. I do think that there are some legitimate conversations to have now about the definitions of essential businesses, who they are, what protocols we could have for businesses that already have very strong hygiene or kind of wellness or healthcare practices, and then what protocols we can give to other businesses so that we could all get on the same guidelines so that we're forward thinking, because we will be back in business. Now, on that front, what does that look like, and what is the current conditions for this economic forecast for our city and our state? Let's bring in our guest tonight. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being a part. I don't know if you were just listening to the setup that I gave. And so I think this conversation with a person that has a finger on the part of the economic pulse with respect to small businesses, with respect to the financing and the financial picture is really great. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you do here in Anchorage so folks know what background you have?
Sure. So I am currently a commercial lender for a SBA financial institution here in Anchorage. The company that I work for is a little different. It's not a bank, and all we do are small business loans using the SBA guarantee program as well as USDA. So I work with small businesses every day, whether they're looking to start something brand new or expand or grow. So I'm seeing all kinds of different businesses and what their plans are and being able to help them achieve those goals that they're wanting to set for themselves.
Excellent. Well, we also had Jasmine Smith on the program from the Business Boutique, who also works with the Office of Equal Opportunity a lot out of the municipality. And recently we had a conversation about those resources and support resources, but we're also hearing just the high level that there's no more money in loans. What's the actual situation for our Alaskan businesses? What can we expect, and where are the gaps that we can see?
Yeah, so these last 2 weeks have been both crazy and amazing at the same time. So a lot of people have probably heard about stimulus packages or PPP loans or economic disaster loans, all these different acronyms and initials being thrown at people for options in order to obtain funding to help their business right now. And the amazing part of this is that almost $1 billion was infused into the state of Alaska to help small businesses in these past 2 weeks. The expectation that the government put on all the lenders was extremely high to be able to provide these funds. I mean, when you put it in perspective, what the SBA has done in 14 days is what they have done in 14 years. Right. So there was a lot of moving pieces. Myself being obviously a loan officer, my husband was a loan officer. We're working from home right now, just helping people to get these funding, get their loans, get their money, and that's going back to their employees. People are being able to stay employed. We've had people that had laid people off that are now bringing them back because some of the opportunities that
because the funding, like the PPE funding, the PPP funding is specifically if you are maintaining your payroll, right?
Yes, you're maintaining it, but it did give you that window to say, okay, I let that person go last month. I'm going to bring them back because they were with me a year ago. So let's bring them back and let's get them paid and help them. And so that in itself was amazing. We're hoping, obviously the big news this week was that the fund ran out of money, right? Right. And so we're waiting for the answer, from the Hill to see if they'll fund that. And they keep talking about it. There's a little bit more disputes, but we're hoping that more money goes into that type of that program. So because there's still more businesses out there that need that money. A
lot of more businesses. And it sounds like there's a commitment to at least another economic stimulus package that looks into that kind of support, because we just don't know when the economy is going to be back in any level of normality, right? And one of the things I read from the SBDC was that we had like 2,700 Alaskan businesses that received resources and support. That's amazing.
Which is amazing. And I know there's a lot more out there, and you hear it from both sides, both people that are very grateful, but there's also people that are still very frustrated because there were so many applications and people could only do so much. And so people, to be honest, haven't gotten it yet, but we're hoping.
What I want to know, and what I also want to know is, and I asked SBDC, and we'll try to find out the information, is like, what were the numbers in Anchorage, right? Very specifically. I don't think those breakdowns came down yet from the state and the larger, but what were they in Anchorage? Because there is a need, there is still these gaps. And then it also is about where your information connectivity is. Right. So the further away from information sources you are as a small business owner, the less like you were in the first tranche.
Right. Yeah. Right. And really now is the time to be nagging your banker, your financial institution person, and just learn more about what's going on and be that person, calling up and seeing, what's next, so you can be in front of that line. Because unfortunately there was that saying of it was first come, first serve. And honestly, it literally was at some point, just because there's so much money, it was going so fast throughout not only Alaska, but the whole United States.
Right. Absolutely. And let me shout out one comment. So Nelson, thank you for tuning in, Nelson. And anyone else who's listening, you could always post a question or a comment. Feel free to hit us up on the live stream. But you're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be some big challenges over the next several months for families. But one of the things that prior to getting on, and I checked in with you, that I wanted to bring up was the nature of the some of the aid that has what some may see as there's a lot of loopholes, a lot of kind of red tape and some hurdles, and sometimes the threshold of getting in is so high that it boxes people out. And can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing with respect to what businesses need?
Yes.
And where some of the aid for the next round needs to really be targeted.
Right. So, I mean, a lot of businesses were really wanting to make sure they could pay their employees. We didn't hear so much about, I need to be able to, pay rent on my business or pay these bills. It was, how can I keep my employees paid so then they can take care of their family?
Right.
A lot of, Alaska owners, we have so many businesses that have such a longevity here in Anchorage and throughout the states where the benefit is that they know how to get through this. But there's a lot of people that are new, and what's important to them is their employees that have stuck it out with them, whether the long haul or on helping them achieve their new goal, and they want to be able to take care of them.
Well, that's fundamentally how you build longevity, right? I mean, you build longevity if you're new by building your relationship so that the community supports you when you're up and when you're down.
Yes. Right. So honestly, that's and I think that if they were to provide some breakdown of the actual funds, because, in these programs, you were allowed to be able to make other payments for other, business expenses that you had. But I think if they broke this large amount down, you're going to see that people were getting paid. And you're right. There is this uncertainty is what happens in 8 weeks, right? People got money for 8 weeks. And what happens after that? There's so much that is unknown. But you're seeing people shine in time of struggle right now with their creativity, seeing what they are going to need to do, kind of a wake up call maybe for some that needed to maybe check some more boxes that they've been procrastinating on to get there.
Right, and all right. Well, here's a question. What is the commercial rate for real estate since prime is 0?
So that honestly, that depends on where you bank. Honestly, every loan officer is going to have their own. So with mine, we do commercial real estate through the SBA program and USDA. We have our own specific rate that's going to be different than the other banks in town. So not to give a gray answer, but it depends on who you're working with and what they're willing to offer.
Excellent, thank you, and feel free to continue to chime in any other questions. One of the things that for anybody else that's online, one of the things that I also see as an opportunity. Let me give you two opportunities that I see. There are many, but here are 2 opportunities. One, part of the work that I did in the mayor's office for 4 years was focused on future-facing economic development. What was next for Anchorage? And that was all things being normal, which was essentially still difficult, constricting public dollars, tightening of the budgets, and still a need to kind of diversify and pivot both revenue sources for the municipality, but then also economic development for the city and the state. Now we're in a space where there is an urgency because we will be forced to rethink things.
Yes.
What does that start to look like with respect to businesses that may have been outside of the main lane of where they could do business just a few months ago, but now there's some new opportunities for connectivity. How do you see them getting involved over the next few months? What is their lead up, and what do they need to do to prepare to actually get into the next phase of development?
Yeah, so we are seeing some amazing creativity that businesses are pulling together. Honestly, realizing that maybe what their normal revenue stream, isn't producing right now, but what can they do differently outside of that? I mean, you see tourism companies that are taking their vans and doing meal delivery services to help people. People are getting online and providing educational tools just so that their business name is in the forefront.
Right.
Because, you know, the truth of the matter is if you're still not in front of people's faces about what they're going to do, they're going to find somebody else who is, right?
Right.
So that's where you're seeing, you know, fitness lessons done online.
Right.
You're seeing businesses, you know, restaurants talking about their specials and their staff, you know, they're adding personalization, but people are getting so creative in ways to still offer their products. And that in the long run is going to benefit them when things do normalize, that they've be able to use that creativity to turn that
Sure.
around, to be more profitable, to be able to reach a different customer base than maybe they weren't before.
And they were before anyway.
Right. And so I really think that the way that people are learning from this and the creativity that we're seeing is really going to help them at the end come out of this with different ways to earn money, to reach different customer bases, and to see what works for them. Maybe that what they were doing before wasn't as successful as what they've learned to do now in fits. And so, because you're right, with the uncertainty of how not only our economy, but how people are going to respond to it, you know, are people still going to, after 8 weeks, you know, longer than that, are they still going to sit down at a restaurant full of people? Like, who knows? But
and everyone's practices are improving now. And just a word of caution to businesses that, you know, or to business owners. There was a recent business in the Tecotnu Center Mall. It was a food restaurant that had a very unfortunate social media post.
I saw that,
and it really hit the business. So the lesson of that, and I say I'm going to leave them off. I'm not going to put anybody on blast specifically. You know, I'm a nonpartisan, so I just believe that people will make their own decisions. But essentially, this is the time to be serious about people's health.
Yes,
and to be thoughtful about the way we do business with each other, because that business practice is going to demonstrate that responsibility that you have and the stewardship you have to the community. And then that's what's going to drive business when we all can come back and shop.
Right. And people unfortunately have the time right now to listen and to pay attention to that. People are more on social media now than ever, you know, looking at businesses, and in that unfortunate case that may hurt them in the long run, just because you're right. People are really going to take the health of their family seriously, and where they go and where they decide to shop and dine and where they decide to spend their time.
I think we all should. So I mean, just put one little frame on that. I saw personally the second airplane hit in 9/11 in New York City, and the devastation to confidence, to the way of life, was immediate and impactful for a long run. We were at war with an enemy we knew, and we figured it out. And we're essentially still at that war against global terrorism now, even in the same theater of operation that was from the time of 9/11, right? And the normal with respect to travel and security has changed over time.
Yes,
we don't need to rush back if we have a thoughtful plan of how to make sure we support each other during and then the after. And that's where I'm on this language of reset, rebuild, and then we can rebound. And so let me just throw the next question. The follow-up question to that was asking for, did you have a range of what they could be out at different lending institutions?
Right. I mean, you'll see it maybe more of a conventional bank, such as, when I say conventional, I mean like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, First National, Northrim. I mean, man, if anybody's on the call, they'll be like, Jennifer, don't say anything. Tell us to it. But I mean, we're seeing rates anywhere from, 4% up to, 6%. Like I said, it honestly, it really depends. I know that's not the great answer, but it just really depends. But rates are lower right now. We are seeing an influx of people, especially refinancing their own personal mortgages on that side of things to get the lower rate. And the measures that banks are using to determine rates, those indexes have gone down. So it just depends on what they add to it for your business. And a lot of financial institutions also tie in other means of what else you have with them, the relationship, what kind of real estate that is. And that's why, there's that range from anywhere, maybe from 4 up to 6, 7, depending upon what you're doing. So.
Okay. So Ed, holla back. Let me know if you got the follow up to that, and you're more than welcome. So you're a parent.
Yes.
And so let's think about this relationship between the small business owners, right, and the parents, because a lot of us are. My wife is a small business owner. She's a housekeeper. She's out of work right now because
Right. Can't go in homes.
Can't go in homes. Everything's locked in those ways. I'm fortunate enough to be working for a state nonprofit organization whose work is even more vital now, the Humanities Forum, with respect to keeping community connected.
Right.
So we have some fortune, but a lot of small business owners, in your family too, also have their kids at home. How are people navigating that? And you specifically, like, how is that working for you?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I keep, looking over my shoulder because I got 3 little ones barreling in here at any time, right? And that's life. I always, when I get on the phone talking to a borrower, I say, hey, you may hear some background noise, and that's my kiddos, because that's the new reality right now. And everybody's, dealing with the mixture of that. It draws new meaning to work-life balance right now, because it's all kind of in one house, and it is stressful, especially if you're a new business and you're trying to figure out what to do. And normally you have kind of that time away to concentrate and to think and to have that time to focus on your business. And now that's, being blended in with family life and chores and kids and now schoolwork and homeschool and kind of the emotions and the feelings of all that of
all compressed
shame and guilt if I didn't get enough homeschooling done with my first grader, but I know for me, I learned, I was like, well, I have to take it one day at a time. This is not normal. You do the best that you can. If you do need to take a break, you do that. I mean, the other day shut my computer down and said, all right, we got to go outside because, for our sanity. And I know
for our health, our wellness, and their learning, but you have to do that.
You have to do that. And I know that this is an extremely stressful time. And I don't mean to make light of that. I know there's people that don't know how they're going to make the bills, and they do have the kids, and just having everything under one house it's hard. And it's just being able to then stay in a positive mindset and know that if you got half an hour here or an hour there, you do what you can and know that that's what it is, whether it's working on your business plan, calling customers, getting on social media to do a post. For the most part, I find that people are understanding, and they have to be at this for everyone.
What also happens during times of crises like this is because people go back to get their education. They go back to school. They go back to kind of upskill and get themselves into a different part of the economy. And this is the time when things are going to shift immensely. Local government is also going to be resetting its disposition, its priorities. I'm focused on that and really thinking about a plan that brings us together, recognizing that we have to build our small business base back. We also have to pivot for the future of what the big industries look like. I mean, oil is taking such a beating. The tourism, when that bounces back, is going to come on. And then we have a local economy that we have to support each other with, and how we drive that. And let me just give you another piece of the puzzle that I hope people go see you about as they think about their businesses along the way. But I see an opportunity for us. So one of the other areas that I was using as my barometer of the success of the time that I had in the administration, and whether or not we were doing a really good job or not, was if our young people believed that they could have a future here in this city. A lot of our young people in normal circumstances can't wait to escape. And across the way. They didn't necessarily see the opportunities here. I helped to rebuild the youth commission that the city has. And we saw from the first year of recruitment to the 4th year where I was there, I saw a dramatic decrease in the amount of kids that stayed for college. But now here's this window of opportunity where if we're thinking of an economic framework for tomorrow, and we think about the creativity that's emerging during this time of crises, and all the times of crises for that matter, because we're resilient and creative, and that's what the city's built on, essentially. Then we really have a window of opportunity to think about what our young people can inherit, to give them an 18 to 24 month window where they may want to stay here and invest here and hunker down. Because I know a lot of parents are not looking forward to sending their kids anywhere. All of that dynamic has changed. So if we as city leaders are thinking about how do we build our education system and really integrate it into the local economy in a way that is driving some advancements into future technology and advancements into innovative industries that then our financial industries, such as yourself, could start to build and support. And our young people are going to help fuel the transition for tomorrow of what we could look like. I think this is their window to bring all of that together, but we have to build platforms for them.
Right. Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I think there is a workforce just waiting in the wings that could really help us through this with their expertise and what they know. And I mean, honestly, especially from the social media, aspect, right? I mean, the things that they can do now and provide to help, get a business to.
I mean, listen, watch this one. High school, almost every high school or the majority of schools have 3D printers in the school, and they may be rudimentary, right? They may be very, early on, but they're learning that technology. They're learning the design principles. They're learning the science of it. And the municipality of Anchorage right now with the I-Team is working to help mobilize the actual makers, the 3D printers out in the community to provide PPE support.
Right.
So we now start to see the ability for what I call the creative economy. And I was focused on really thinking of how do we create a shape that people could see some of the raw talent elements that may be hidden under normal circumstances, but created upward in a way where we see a new economic framework that our young people could believe in. And this creative economy and this reimagining things, looking at our city and looking at the landscape and the tapestry of what it could be is I think the real gift of opportunity that we have now.
Right. I think we're going to see opportunity and new innovation and come out of this this is going to blow our minds of what people can do and how they can push themselves to get through something like this.
If we keep a framework of everything's possible, and then so the fundamentals, let's just remind people the fundamentals of what it takes from everything's possible into I want to build something formal and concrete. What do they need to have as to turn an idea into that business looking forward? That's like fundamental because the check boxes real quick.
Yes. Oh, yes. And I do that all day long. And I would say, and the biggest thing that people, if you don't already have, I would say a huge best practice right now is create a business plan. You're going to have to explain yourself even more so now of what your idea is, how you got there, how you're going to get there. And so many people are going to want to see that right now. And now is a good time where, unfortunately, you do have that downtime where you're maybe not in the storefront, but you still have time there where you could work on your business behind the scenes and really tee up that business plan, because I know that's one of the main things I have to have from everybody that I talk to, because I have to tell that story. And now there's a new element to that is now I have to tell that story of what you're going to do now and then how this pandemic affected it.
Right.
I'm already right now.
And if you are like the small business that's paying attention right now, know someone, you got SPDC, but for the grassroots aspect, you also got the business boutique. Shout out to Jasmine Smith. Thank you for supporting the work we do in community together and for bringing information to people that essentially helps them get their business going, their business plan developed, and then they could come see you and others out in the community.
Yes, we partner a lot with SBDC. That is a great resource. It's free. If we're unable, people are starting from the ground up. We really partner with them a lot. I mean, I guess I'll say where I work for Alaska Growth Capital. And so I'd be happy to talk to anybody, whether they're at the right at the starting ground or they have a business and they're trying to figure out what's going on right now with all these different options that are out there or what to do next. And I'm happy to talk to anybody.
And so for folks that want to know, you can reach out to us, reach out to me, obviously. You mentioned it. I'm not going to have to do that again, primarily because just to be clear, Jennifer's on her own time. We're having a conversation. And my purpose is to bring people together so we can share good information. And that's what we're focused on. And I thank you for being a part of that conversation with me. Anytime. And here's another little hit that I'm hearing about. And it would be phenomenal if the support we were giving to community, to small businesses, didn't have the loopholes. And let's go back to this loophole question. And one of the major loopholes, and I want to know how the municipality is also going to deal with this. I have the way I would deal with it, but I also respect that there is a time for the current people to have their time to work.
Yeah.
So, and I respect that time. I have my opinions about what we could do, but I respect their time.
Yeah.
Okay, now, but we'll make the case moving forward. I think experience matters. And so the question is essentially when people are like, let's say the furlough of the mortgage payments, right? And this, I think you may see some of this in commercial a little bit, but the majority of the money's going to payroll. But when we talk about that, for even homeowners, there's this ability to 90-day furlough.
Yes.
For your mortgage payment. Yes. And then you could pick it up. What people may not be aware of, and I want to be clear, and then just talk about what could it look like? Is there a better way? And how do we start to kind of push toward that? Which is, in 3 months, when that window and that furlough is over, you're responsible for the total of the aggregate of the 3 months in one lump sum, essentially, the way it's written now. Is that correct?
Well, honestly, it should be tagged onto the backside of it.
Back end.
The back end. Because honestly, nobody's gonna be able to afford 3 months right
now. That's the problem.
Typically you see it added onto the back end. So, but that's important for people to know that it is going to extend the maturity. But you're also interest is going to be accruing during that time, and that's going to be happening with any financial institution that offers a furlough. So that's important too.
So it's really check your details.
Should be tacking it into the end. If they expect that up front, that's going to be, I think, detrimental to people. And
it is going to be detrimental, but that's also true with utilities, right? So the utility delay. There's also the furlough, the ability to kind of local utilities are, especially the municipal ones. You can, if you cannot pay your bill, you can not pay it for the time that we're in this public emergency, and I think it's still out to 90 days too. But that bill is due in the 3 months aggregate of it, so that's not. So they don't tack it on. It's not a work through plan, or they're not. So, we need to be thoughtful about that. Both be aware of it, but then I would also argue that we should, as policymakers, should be thinking about a different model that looks at these moments of crises as part of through a lens where we are doing the best that we can to support people with the lowest amount of anxiety, right? Because people fundamentally want to work.
They do.
We're the hardest working city in America. Statistically, we are, but I think so many of us have so many different hats. It's hard to find one person here that does one thing. So many things we do, and so it's just important that we are thinking, both the local government, the financial institutions that are ours, that we're all working in a way that we're trying to do the best that we can and do it the most way that we give people opportunity to get back on their feet. Right.
No.
Yeah.
Yep, you're
so
exactly.
I'm focused on that. I don't know that there's a lot of levers from the municipality, except when we think about what does this look like to property taxes in the next few years, right? How do we start to replace revenue as we transition as part of this reset? But then also, how do we maintain quality expectations around our services that people expect that we're delivering, right? And so the combination essentially says, with a methodical approach, we got to get back on a thing, back in motion. But we also then have to think about in a way, and my model is, if we're thinking preparedness for next time, we may rethink some of the way we do business now.
Yes.
So that we could be better prepared for when it hits next time. We all are a little more.
Yeah.
Especially here in Anchorage. I mean, from the earthquake. I mean, did you see a difference from when the earthquake, the post-earthquake time to now? I mean, this is obviously, I think, bigger.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're from that to what we're dealing with now. We're seeing more money, honestly, going back to the small businesses and going back to the people in this pandemic. Yep. Than the earthquake. Yeah. Okay. Which is amazing. I think I have a visitor.
Here you go. See, look, so there's this one.
Yeah. So
right. My mortgage company does not tack it on to the end. Right. And
I'm surprised by that.
Thank you, Breonna, because that's exact. I've heard that. And that is crazy
It is.
and
Yeah.
very, very problematic.
Right. And I'll be curious to see how that mortgage company does after that 3 months when they find that a lot of people are not going to be able
What
to
are
do
they
that.
gonna do?
That's not going to
Right.
help them. They're not going to honestly make any money off that. They're not going to be able to, collect those funds. So I'll be curious to kind of follow that stream.
Yeah.
To see
So
what actually happens with what the results are when they're doing that to people.
so essentially, there's Brianna. There's the Jennifer's disposition is, oh yeah, they're setting themselves up, but that doesn't.
Yeah.
But your anxiety is real today, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And I think that is very problematic. And I also would urge people who are particularly focused on the banking questions to contact our federal representatives. I think when we talk about our next the next bailout or the stimulus package 2 and 3, I don't want to call it bailout because we are we pay for all of this in the first place. So this is our resources coming back into community to support us during this difficult time. But
yeah, no, that's and then I don't know if that guest, if she is dealing with a local lender or not. If she isn't, I would recommend call somebody local, one of the local banks, and talk about your mortgage and see if there's some other options.
Yes, absolutely. And to the point earlier, and thank you. Yeah, thank you, sis, for checking in. Exactly. Now is the time for networking and connecting. Yes. But it's also the time to get out of the way of the help that needs to happen. Like as a candidate running for mayor, the natural inclination is to want to connect with people, want to work. But then there's also the fundamentals of running a race, like fundraising and raising dollars. Some of those things need to really be aligned to how we could help each other rather than putting that foot forward about personal ambition. I think now is a time for recognizing that if we're leaders and we have leadership, our role is to bring people together to prepare for what's next. We're experiencing the now, but it's to prepare for the what's next. Let me shout out Ed Wesley, because it's exactly right. Stay ready instead of getting ready. Right. So that's a live mom situation right there. Right. So we stay ready instead of getting ready. And that's really important. And I want to go back to Brianna's point about the mortgage company. When this is all said and done, that might be the new wing place that got put on blast, depending on, especially if they're a local person. So I would expect that. Hey, your sister shouts us out. Thank you. Oh no, this is Olivia. Yeah, so yeah, well, people are shouting us out, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a petition out there right now, and I know people are anxious to go back to work, and people are anxious to open their business. But what we all need is, I'll go back to this barometer, so that if for the policymakers that are paying attention, and I know many are, I've been tracking. We want to see a dashboard, regular and real time, that gives us the confidence with respect to a reduction in cases, the widespread availability of testing. I want to know how many people have been tested in Anchorage. I want to see this regularly. I want to understand this. The healthcare system capacity. I could drive by regional and I could see that regional has a 15-minute waiting list for the ER. I want to see that in real time on our public site, so that we know that we're doing good. We know if we have to hunker a little more. And it goes back to this culture of personal responsibility and business responsibility. Yeah. I believe we got the best business owners in the nation with respect to working together when we have to, and doing the right thing to protect each other's health and safety.
Yeah. And to have more hope, there are businesses that are still doing really well through this. It's not necessarily, granted it is stressful, but it's not necessarily all doom and gloom. There are some people that are still like, my husband works in the construction industry with those individuals, and they're still working. And the people that support that. And,
permits are up. We're in the springtime for the permits. And I love that industry is really important. And I want to focus on the builders too. Thank you for bringing that up. Is they're really important to my reset, rebuild, and rebound plan, the builders. But specifically the way that safety and safety measures in that industry are already high standards, give me a real strong confidence that they can continue to operate and be safe, especially, again, if we go back to this ability to have them know this data that I just said I would like to see, if they saw that too and they were able to track that and had some protocols to check and work with their workers and their employees. But yeah, that is definitely one of those industries that is now getting ramped up, and we can look to, because that is one of those industries that when other things start to constrict, building development is what we can usually rely on and count on. But let me go back to this whole idea that live, work, and play, the nature of all of these conversations have been around and in policymakers' hands for quite some time. But we still have young people not seeing this as their future city, right? So if we take this window and we think about all of that together, and we think about what we're building and how we're building it, and how we are giving our young people an opportunity to have ownership here, then I think we're going to really change the game. We're going to start to recruit more people for our trades and for the blue collar work that we need to rebuild ourselves.
And there's good money to be made in trades. Let me tell you, there's good money to be made in trades. That's for sure.
Shout out to the East Side. Yes, I'm on the East Side with you. And thank you for seeing. Hey, let me pop that back on. Shout out to Marcus Sanders. I'm on with Jennifer Snodgrass. Jennifer is a commercial banker. We had a really great conversation today about some of the economic conditions, some of the what if and what we could think about too. And then also some information about how you can follow up, and we'll make sure that information is available, and I'll put that out through our push as well. And absolutely, and thank you, Elise Galvin, for tuning in and checking the future of the trades and the future for trades. Elise, we were talking about workforce development, and I think Elise will really understand this because she's an education advocate. We have an opportunity, Elise, to make sure that we retool things in such a way that we give our young people a real window of opportunity to think about making this their future city, and having their lives here, as opposed to what we have seen for the many years that I got to get out of Alaska feel, right? So if we give that opportunity, we think of wall-to-wall career and technical education, expanding that in the school district. Knowing that we have these divides that we still need to connect with each other through technology and et cetera. But now then working with the builders and getting the industries aligned for those apprenticeships and back into the way King Tech does it, quite honestly. We have a real great opportunity to think about the city in a creative way. And but I also want to challenge lenders. I want to challenge lenders to think sometimes outside of the box, creatively. There are some emerging industries and sectors that are happening here in Anchorage that may be cutting edge, but then can give us a real opportunity to pivot to an advanced, high-tech future base of industry here in Anchorage too.
Yep.
So, hey, thank you for being with us. And we'll continue to share information. I think we got one more comment. Watching from, hey, Elias, watching from South Edition. You know it, and Jennifer's tuning in from the South Side.
Yep, Jewel Lake. Yep.
So we're all points Anchorage today, and I know others are watching. And so thank you. We'll let you go. Get back to your family. I thank you for your time and the work you're doing in the community to keep us posted. If things come up, I would love to potentially have you back.
I would love it. Yeah.
Get more information.
Yep, I would love to be back. We're keeping a close eye on this, so be happy to share what I'm able to learn.
Excellent. Thank you, and have a great rest of your night. Excellent. What a wonderful conversation. And yes, Tamara, yes, we covered all directions tonight, and we began with the land acknowledgement. I just want to go back to that. But before we get close to the end of our show, I had the second musical interlude, and I'm glad we have a good audience. So let me do my intercom for my son now. So this is a parenting technique that I learned. So let me share this with all the parents out there that are watching. I learned this through circumstances of traveling overseas and working abroad when I was appointed as a cultural envoy through the Bush administration and worked across the Obama administration as well. across the Western Hemisphere. I had to learn how to call my son from remote distances with just a whistle. Let's see if he's in earshot and if it works. The power of the intercom, that was, thank you very much for. So my son's going to take us to the next part. I wanted him to give us another great little musical interlude. So what you going to play for us? A little nice and easy, though. A little Fur-Elise, a little classical music before we head to the break. So hold on with us a few more minutes, everybody. And my son, once again, Little G. And hey, thank you, Ro. Ro and Max said hey. So we thank you for tuning in and for checking. Really important conversation. And remember, you can rewind it once we're done. You can share the recording with others so they can listen in, get some information, and also get some ideas of where they could find more resources. So go ahead, baby. Dr. Dre. Go. Medley. Woo! All right, name that tune, everybody. All right, give me another one. What you got? One more. Wait, one more for the road. Easy, 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 easy. All right, thank you, boy. Good. I appreciate you. Now my son's going to get ready to kick me off because he wants to play some online games. And hey, we got sounding good, Little G. Practicing the piano. We got a lot of time at home. You need to do your math first. Very nice. So I like that. He's self-reported. He needs to do his math first before he gets on the PlayStation. He has Fortnite on his brain, but he has to do math first. That's solid. Oh yeah, he is grown. We miss you too. And thank you, Andrea. That was a family affair. Good to have you on the program, and your sister with us. Really good talk. Let me just go back to where we started essentially today. Anchorage, we have a tremendous opportunity to reset, rebuild, and rebound. If we step back, if we work together, we can be stronger, more prosperous than ever before. But it's going to take some creative thinking, and it's also going to take some reorganization of the status quo. Just the way we do business is going to change. So I want us to really fully embrace that, but we don't know what it's going to look like. So what we have to have is open lines of communication with our local elected officials, our local policymakers, and recently, and I encourage everyone to also communicate now, because the resettling is going to happen. But if we do it with respect, we recognize that we are resilient, we will rebound. If we reset, we can rebuild, we will rebound. It's really simple. It's a very simple formula. But let me also challenge you with this. I see a future in the city for not only us coming together, but being creative, and creative with civil investments. With the way businesses are stepping up into the fold, we're going to be able to help streamline municipal services by working closer with public and private partnerships in the aftermath. I'm excited about that. I'm also excited that we're able to now address some of the equity challenges that we've had in our city, like the digital divide. And when we have to switch to a hybrid or mostly now online format with local education, then I want us to make sure that every kid has opportunity to learn, which means the basics for closing the digital divide are important. And lastly, I want to shout out all of our graduates. This week, I had an opportunity to do a video for the university students. I am a member of the Chancellor's Advisory Board for UAA, And I'm thrilled to be an advisor for the university and for the chancellor. And I was asked to do a video. And the video is essentially celebrating our graduates, because this is a graduation unlike any before. So your resilience and hard work is self-evident, and we thank you for it. But all of our graduates, we'll make it up. Be safe now. Keep doing your hard work at home. Keep your brain and your creativity going. I want all of our young people to remember this opportunity for us as adults is the opportunity to help you inherit the city that you are in now and the city that we can build together. So thank you, everyone. I'll see you next week. This is Tell George Live. And then lastly, remember, you can visit the website at www.george2021. I'm running for mayor. My election is next April. And quick plug, all support matters. Any donation counts. We have to build our way, get there. And I'm focused on bringing people together and moving Anchorage forward. So your support makes a difference to me. Thank you for tuning in. And feel free to share any questions you have so we can bring them to our community in our next Tell George Live. Have a great rest of your weekend and be safe, everybody.